Hi guys, it's me. I'm a big Marvel fan. In case you didn't know, I saw the original Iron Man at a sneak preview at the Century Rio in Albuquerque when it came out. The preview was on a Tuesday, and I remember loving that movie. And ever since then, I've really enjoyed all the MCU content. I ranked the MCU films a couple years ago on this very channel. I will link to it down in the description of this video. And I really have always adored these movies. I think what Marvel and Disney have accomplished throughout the course of the Infinity Saga, the first three phases of the MCU is incredible, miraculous. A lot of things had to go right in terms of casting, writing, director choices, and it did, and it created just an incredible film franchise that I really do adore and treasure, and I think I always will. Um, and now let's talk about kind of what's happened with the latest movie, which is Thor: Love and Thunder. Thank you so much for checking out the video. Before we get started, click on that red subscribe button and the notification bell. That way you know whenever I post a new piece of content. So there's two things I liked about Thor: Love and Thunder. First is a pair of running jokes that run throughout the course of the film. One involves a pair of goats. You've probably seen them in the trailers. And the other is regarding Thor's weapon, Stormbreaker. I liked those running jokes, and they made me laugh consistently throughout the film's runtime. There's also a really good scene. It's one of the best scenes in the entire MCU. And I'm not going to spoil it. It's two characters. It's just dialogue. It's like at near the very end of the movie. It's a hospital scene. Two characters just talking to each other. I won't say more than that, but it's fantastic. It's some of the best dialogue in the MCU. One of my very favorite moments from one of MCU's most important characters. And I loved it. I loved everything about that scene. And now let's talk about what I didn't like. Thor has basically become a parody of himself at this point. If you go back and watch the original Thor, which is a movie that I actually really love and I think is actually underappreciated and underrated, this movie is basically a parody of that film. All of the seriousness, all of the regality and like the Shakespearean nature of it is completely gone. And that's something that Kenneth Branagh was always good at. And when he directed that movie, he brought this real sense of gravitas and seriousness to it. Despite being a rather silly fish out of water story, he took it seriously. And I love that. And now these movies have just devolved into parodies of that. Thor had a very recognizable and obvious character arc in the first film that established who he was going to be moving forward. And they've completely just said to hell with that. And it's completely irrelevant at this point because he's like this complete just buffoon. And I don't really get it. Like he's now kind of like the laughingstock of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and I think that's disappointing. So, also everything in this movie is gay, and I don't really know why. The filmmakers seem very intent on making sure that every character that's not named Thor or Jane Foster is gay. Like it's really kind of ridiculous. Like they've made characters that are completely irrelevant to the story. Just hey, we're gonna make this character gay for no reason, and I just I don't get it. It's done multiple times throughout the film. They make it really obvious what they're doing. It's extremely cringe and it's just pandering. Like Tessa Thompson identifies as queer, the actress, that's fine. But like they make this like really hard push to make it obvious in this movie that she is, but the movie's not called Tessa Thompson. The movie's about Thor. Like, I don't care about the actor's personal views. Why is this even in the movie? And this includes referring to her as King Valkyrie, which is weird. Like, I thought, like, why do you need to take a man's title and then, like, is a woman's title of queen not good enough? That's what the movie seems to be saying. It's a very strange decision. And it's super duper pandering and extraordinarily cringe. And it really is obvious and whatever. It doesn't seem like that's really necessary in this movie. If anything, kind of disconnecting politics from your film proves to be quite successful. Case in point, the biggest grossing film of the year is going to be Top Gun Maverick, probably by a wide margin, unless it gets derailed by Avatar at the end of the year. Top Gun is going to run away with it, and it should, because it's a movie that can't be bothered with politics, despite having a noticeably diverse cast. It just doesn't shove it in your face every 10 seconds. This movie completely wastes the Guardians of the Galaxy. They're in this movie. I have no idea why. They're in like 2 scenes. Nobody cares. They're poorly written into this story. They're really not written into this story. They're just kind of here so they can be thrown on the poster. And I remember when when Infinity War came out, I was concerned about how they would fit the Guardians of the Galaxy in. And I was completely wrong. They nailed it with those films, with Endgame and Infinity War. They're such an integral part of that story. You simply cannot have the story without the Guardians of the Galaxy. You could have Thor, Love and Thunder without them. No problem whatsoever. Really disappointing. There's a bunch of shots from the trailer that don't make it into the film. There's a line in the trailer that I love when Gore, and I'll get into him in a little bit, he's a villain played by Christian Bale, and he says, you're not like the other gods I've killed. You have something worth fighting for. And I remember seeing that line in the trailer and being like, yeah, there's going to be some character development, some dialogue between the hero and the villain. It's going to be awesome. That line is not in the movie anywhere. And it looks like that scene was just completely left on the cutting room floor. There's a couple other shots that are clearly not in the movie, despite being in the trailer, which tells me that maybe there was some behind the scenes stuff going on in order to get this film in theaters. So, the ending of this movie is trash, and I was really bummed. Some strange character choices that seemed very out of place for what we had seen in the movie that precedes them. The hospital scene near the end of the movie basically is completely undone by the ending and really ruined by it, in the name of big fan servicey aha stand up and cheer moment that falls completely flat because it undermines the amazing scene that set it up. So that might be a little bit spoilery. Sorry if it is, but you deserve to know that the ending of this movie was really a bummer, and I hate that I feel that way. Yeah, Christian Bale, completely misused here. I love Christian Bale. I was super excited to see him in this. I love a good movie villain, and to see him go from playing, Bruce Wayne, Batman, the hero, to playing the bad guy, I thought was going to be really cool, and he is completely underutilized here. I don't care about his powers. I really started to get engaged in his story. The ending kind of undermined that, but he's just a waste here. The guy's a supremely talented actor, one of the top 4 or 5 best actors currently living, and he's in this movie, and he's not used well in the least. So that was really a bummer. Okay, so where does this leave the MCU? Thus far, we've gotten Black Widow, which I think sucks, and I reviewed that movie too. I'm going to link to all these down in the description if you want to watch my reviews of these movies. I think I reviewed all of these. I have. So Black Widow sucked. Shang-Chi, actually liked it. I thought it was really good. I like Shang-Chi. I think it's if you're going to do another like solo origin film for a Marvel character, I think they did about a good job as you can do for that particular character, and I like that. That one gets a thumbs up for me. Eternals, beautiful looking movie, complete trash, and I didn't like it. Spider-Man No Way Home, phenomenal, fantastic. Spoilers for Spider-Man No Way Home. Huge fan of how they implemented Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire into that universe, and I really, really hope they don't screw it up. Sony, please, thanks. Signed, everybody who loves the Raimi trilogy. Multiverse of Madness, I love that movie. I've seen it twice, really liked it when I saw it in the theater, liked it even more when I watched it at home. I think that movie, so much of what that movie makes successful, what makes that movie successful is that it's willing to take chances, and that I love and appreciate. It's kind of the opposite of what they did with this movie, a movie that takes no chances, is extremely formulaic, follows the Marvel like punch, 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 joke, punch, 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 joke, emotional beat, emotional beat, emotional beat, and then joke, and then punch, 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 and just repeats itself over and over again. That's what Thor Love and Thunder does. Multiverse of Madness, completely weird, strange, basically turns into a slasher film like 3/4 of the way through it, and I friggin' love it. Let's go. So now the rest of the year we have Black Panther, Wakanda Forever coming up. We've got Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, Guardians 3, The Marvels, and Fantastic Four. I'm looking forward to 3 of these movies. I'm excited to see what they do with Ant-Man, Guardians, and Fantastic Four. Wakanda, Marvels, don't care. So we'll see. I think that there's clearly a lack of vision that's happening at Marvel right now. I think it's a massive problem. They there's no they've set up Kang the Conqueror in the show Loki, but we haven't seen anything from him since. Spoilers for Multiverse Madness. We got the Illuminati. We got all of these awesome characters brutally murdered by Scarlet Witch. It was great. Loved it. And now we still don't know what we don't know what any big threat is coming up. And these movies have really been kind of derailed since Endgame. I think having Robert Downey Jr. and Chris Evans as those steady as that steady presence spearheading the entire thing, Downey Jr. in particular, really provided a lot of strength for these films and allowed the filmmakers to focus and the producers to focus on what they wanted to do. And now without those guys, nobody's really stepped up into that place to take the reins of the MCU. There was talk, about Spider-Man maybe being that character moving forward, but the way they closed the book on No Way Home, that is clearly not an option, at least not for a while. We'll see what happens with the Fantastic Four. I'm really excited to see what they do with the X-Men, but now I have my doubts, and that's a real bummer because I love the MCU. I adore these films for the most part, but Phase 4 has been a pretty significant disappointment. I think they've overstretched themselves with the shows too. I watched WandaVision and Loki and Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I have not seen Moon Knight or Hawkeye. And I don't really have any desire to, which is a disappointment because I like Hawkeye as a character, and I like the idea of Oscar Isaac as Moon Knight. It's just I'm not all that interested, and that's not a good place to be in for a fan of the MCU. So thank you so much for checking out the video. If you liked it, if you found it helpful, if you think I'm crazy, maybe still click the like button, subscribe. You can also share it. That tells the powers that be that it's worth promoting. And hit me up in the comments. I really want to know what people think of this movie because I was supremely disappointed. So let me know down in the comments, and I will see you next Wednesday at 9 a.m.